But we're going to start this morning with Big Trouble in Little China. Did you ever see that movie?
Yes, I did. I even know the song.
Yeah, you got my reference.
You got
then.
Big Trouble.
Who sings that song?
In Little China. I have no idea.
If anyone can name who sings that song in the chat, let us know. Big Trouble in Little China. Is it Patrick Swayze? Kurt Russell.
It's Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell movie.
This is much bigger than Kurt Russell. This is what's happening in China as it relates to Evergrande. And it is really troubling this morning. Evergrande shares tumbled overnight after the sale of their services unit basically collapsed. Shares in Evergrande in China fell sharply as the company's stock resumed trading on Thursday. Of course, this comes after the real estate developer disclosed that it had a plan to sell its property services division. And guess what? That whole thing collapsed. So the share price has plummeted as a result.
And this was their Hail Mary. You might recall that they have too much debt. We only recently got wind that they were not going to be able to pay it and they are going to default. And economists are expecting that this will then implode the Chinese market because this debt it hinges on so many other pieces of the puzzle when it comes to the Chinese economy. Now, since Evergrande missed their first payment, Evergrande peers, including developer Fantasia and Cynic Holdings, have also defaulted on bonds worth $206 million and $246 million, respectively, while yields on riskier Chinese borrowers on Asian bond markets soared. So this is like all of these pieces are starting to crumble. And for those of us who don't closely follow the Chinese stock market, we're like, what's going on there? Yeah. We didn't know that it was built on such a house of cards. And now it seems that is absolutely the case. The Chinese government is under fire because it allowed Evergrande to make moves behind the scenes without updating shareholders. So they were saying, yes, we have a buyer for this piece. We're going to be fine. We will have the cash. Now they don't. They already have defaulted. They don't have the cash. So it's very worrying about what this means for a connected economy.
And who would want to pay for, $2.6 billion to buy this property services division? The thing is, once you actually start to get into this, it's scary. And it reminds me, folks, you might be saying, why do I care about China this morning? Look, it's all connected. Right? So what happens in your retirement account, what happens in the U.S. stock market, what happens with your job, what happens with the U.S. dollar, it's all tied to this. Mm-hmm. Remember what happened in 2008, folks, when we had the worst housing crisis we've ever seen in the United States. It brought down China, it brought down everybody because of what was happening with these homes that were being built. People didn't have jobs. They were getting these homes and they couldn't afford to pay the mortgages. And then all of these crappy mortgage bonds fell down and collapsed and the entire housing market collapsed. But I have to say, this reminds me of out in like Stockton, California during the collapse in 2008, where you had like ghost towns. Mm-hmm. You had all these empty properties, these new construction properties. Take a look at this. This is what's going on right now. They're calling it like the Evergrande ghost towns. This video is really, really stunning. Take a look at this. This is just like empty structures. Oops, I hit the wrong one here. Oh yeah, here we go. These are like empty structures. All of these are Evergrande projects. These are building projects all over China. I'm talking thousands and thousands of subdivisions that they're building right now. They're just empty, not even nowhere near done. They have no money. And by the way, Chinese people have put down money to move into these properties.
Oh my goodness.
So they've made deposits. They've made tens of thousands of deposits for different Chinese people. And that's how you do it. You put down a deposit and then they build you your home. Well, guess what? They're not building your home. And now where is that money? It's gone. Look at these. This looks like, so once you start to peel this onion back, folks.
Oh my gosh. And think of the carbon footprint of these houses that will go nowhere.
Look at these people. And they're like kind of squatting. They're just kind of sneaking in and they're like sleeping on. Look at this. These are all, look, this roof's just like falling apart. They haven't even completed any of these. They're all vacant. And the Chinese government really doesn't want the rest of the world to know about the mass of this problem, guys. But this is an absolute disaster.
And that must be one of the reasons why they allowed this company to start sort of crumbling behind the scenes. And now they're saying, oh, this is absolutely unacceptable. There should have been more disclosures before this, as if they didn't already know right?
Right.
And Kristen in the chat says, well, hasn't the U.S. bailed them out yet? I mean, it's absolutely the opposite. They bail us out.
Right.
We borrow from China. How are we going to do that if they haven't imploded? Like, where would we go to borrow if there was not China?
So think about all of the money that they've taken and that they simply just cannot pay back now. I mean, they've gotten billions of dollars they can't pay back. They're not building. This is all built on an idea that, hey, all of these properties in China, their values are just going to continue to rise. Well, guess what happens when suddenly that rug gets pulled out and these property values slightly started to decline? This is what we saw, a slight decline in property values.
Do you know that you have
and this is the problem.
Do you know that you have to put 50% down on a property purchase in China?
Think about that. I didn't know that. Actually, maybe I did now that you rekindled my memory. But just think about all those poor people
that lost their 50% deposit.
Yeah.
In fact, I read an article, or I read a book once about borrowing in China. It said that like men who can buy their apartment are considered more eligible bachelors because it shows that they have been able to like secure a house. Because I mean, think about it. Someone who owns 50% of their apartment, you're like,
right.
Yeah, sure. This guy's not a bum, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, this is just a few days away, guys. I mean, they have it like the company faces a deadline this weekend. So this weekend is like a very critical deadline for Evergrande, and this could spill over. It's already spilling over, right? Evergrande, as we've heard from experts, is just the tip of the iceberg in China. And there's other massive real estate developers who are probably almost as big as Evergrande, which are also defaulting on payments. So folks, how do you protect yourself right now? One thing I think you need to be aware of is, where is your money? Is it sitting in a bank? Because I'm telling you, banks right now are basically the numbers I was researching this morning. Banks have about 1% of actual currency, your money in the bank right now. Like if you were to go to the bank and say, I want to take out $10,000, you might be able to, but the person behind you in line may also get their money out, but the third person in line, no way. That money's not in that bank. It's just not going to be there, right? And so where is your money? Well, a lot of it is tied to Chinese assets, right? And interests. So if you've got your money in a U.S. bank right now, you know, you may want to seriously consider moving it to other more stable assets like gold, Bitcoin, real estate, out of this banking system.
Well, it's funny because ahead of this news, the Chinese government has started to make these rumblings about, well, not rumblings, laws, outline cryptocurrency, right? Because, and do you think these two things are linked to the fact that their currency is in trouble and they don't all of a sudden want a cryptocurrency to be an attractive option for people who are like, uh-oh, my money's in trouble in this economy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we absolutely know. I mean, they're communist, right? And they want to control their own, they don't, by having that have the ability to get crypto or Bitcoin in China, it completely undermines the Chinese yuan. You know, China wants the yuan to be the world's default currency.
Yes.
Right. And they're sick and tired of it being the US dollar. And so I think you're also you're not going to get a lot of truth out of China about the severity of this, not just Evergrande, but all of the other real estate developers, as this economy in China looks like it's literally teetering on the brink of collapse.
Yes.
Heed these warnings, folks. Heed these warnings. This weekend, as I mentioned, Evergrande has a 30-day grace period. It expires on these interest payments. So they got a 30-day grace period to get some of those interest payments that they missed 30 days ago. That's up this weekend.
Now, I want to say, I don't know anything about buying new builds in China. So it's possible you don't have to put down a full 50% for something that's not built. I don't want to pretend I'm an expert on that, but I know for most existing home, the lending program in China is only up to 50%.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I mean, in the U.S., what is it with a new build in the U.S. for something like that? Normally, you would do it at certain construction phases, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm not sure.
But nevertheless.
But it is nowhere near the, say, 20 or 30% that we're used to in the U.S.
So what about all these people, though, that made their initial deposit to buy a home?
But even at 10%, right? That's a big loss.
Especially for a country where most of the population just does not make enough money.
Yes.
Really, really troubling. So we'll keep our eye on the Evergrande crisis as that unfolds over the next few days. And I'll be watching it closely as we go into the weekend, because it's going to it could spill over into the U.S. economy. And we're looking at the Dow Jones hitting records. We're looking at the S&P 500 hitting records over the past few days. Like, and you listen to these different investors and like, hey, it's sunny over here in America. Just wait until China collapses. Wait until you see what's going to happen on all of that. So we'll get to that and more. We have much more coming up on the show. We're going to talk about your stimulus update. A lot of movement overnight in Washington. We'll talk about that. What else do we have coming up?
Yes, we're going to talk about the supply chain and how that's going to affect your holiday.
Yeah.
And jobs numbers as well, and what's trending.
Thanks for subscribing to the channel. You can also become a channel member by going to morninginvest.com/join, where you can stick it to the mainstream media and support independent journalism. We're able to bring you the stories that you won't see on any of the major billionaire-backed networks. Thanks so much. We'll